again to another Alabama adventure. Tonight, we're getting close to Bigfoot. Back in 2012, about 2 years ago, the Alabama Bigfoot Society decided to have an open meeting where anybody that wanted to attend and see what we talked about and what all we did was welcome. So one Saturday afternoon, we planned this. We advertised it on the site, and you may have seen it back then. Anyway, a friend of ours had a place that they let us use. It had a large front yard, and we advertised on the site if you would like to bring your grill and come early to cook out, you would be welcome. And several people did, and we had a real good afternoon. We talked about all type of stuff. Later that night, we had a bonfire in the front yard, and we all sat around in a circle, kind of Indian style, and anybody that wanted to add into the conversation could, and a lot of people did. And we talked about Bigfoot and ghosts and UFOs and alien abduction and witches and reincarnation and Atlantis. And the list just goes on and on about what we talked about that night. Just anything and everything that people want to talk about. So what I would like to do is to read you a little talk that I made over there about dark that afternoon, just so we could sort of break the ice and get people's interest going on Bigfoot and other paranormal subjects. So let me get my other eyes on, and I'll read you that. I guess you could call it a speech. I didn't particularly call it a speech. It was just a little ice-breaking talk that I made. And let me get my other eyes on so I can see a little bit. We hadn't got a lot done this summer that we had planned, and a lot of you know why. I've had to have some eye surgery over the summer, and still having trouble seeing, but we're not going to let that slow us up tonight. Hopefully I can read this well enough that it will make sense to you. And here was a little talk that I made that afternoon. Tonight our main topic is Bigfoot, thus our name, Alabama Bigfoot Society. But I, as well as other members, have many interests when it comes to the paranormal, such as ghosts, UFOs, alien abduction, angels, Atlantis, and the list goes on and on. There are things and topics in the Bible I'm very interested in, and I enjoy other people's interpretation. However, I won't get on religion or politics tonight, and I ask that no one else get on politics. A friend of mine a few days ago, when asked by another lady, "What's your favorite paranormal subject?" she answered, "Everything." Then she began naming all her favorite topics. One that caught my attention was vampires. And when I asked her about her interest in vampires, she was very knowledgeable on the subject. She told me several things about them that I did not know, and she told me where I could find the information she had. Of course, it was on the internet. So you never know where a person's interest lies when it comes to the unknown, to the occult. And by the way, let me say something about the word occult before we go any further. According to Webster's dictionary, and I don't know if Webster's dictionary is still the top reference guide in the world now. I'm sure it's some online dictionary, because everything else has changed so much in the past few years. Anyway, the word occult simply means unknown, according to Webster's dictionary. Now, Hollywood over the years has changed the meaning of a lot of words and a lot of things. They have you believing the word occult means something associated with the devil, Satan, devil worship, and so forth like that. They want you to believe it's something evil, but that's not the case. As I said, it simply means unknown. But on to my favorite paranormal topic, Bigfoot, or Sasquatch as I prefer to call him. Sasquatch is an Indian, or let me clarify that because we want to be politically correct in everything we say these days, a Native American word that to some tribes mean hairy man. Sasquatch is an ape-like creature that, for whatever the reason, has defied capture and identification. In many of the Indian stories and legends, they refer to Sasquatch as the keeper of the forest or the keeper of the mountain. The Indians said it was a mystical and a magical creature, that it could appear and disappear at will. The Indians claimed to live in harmony with Sasquatch. They know he exists and they come in contact with him on a regular basis. And Indians knew how to live close to the land. They believe and practice many things that are many different ways from our way of living these days. I became interested in Indian beliefs several years ago when I discovered that I had Indian ancestry on my father's side. I already knew I had it on my mother's side. I guess I consider myself fortunate that I have Indian ancestry now from both my parents. I have read and studied the Indian way of life, and there is much good, much healing, and much truth in their ways. And to me, once you study their ways, you'll see they were not the savages and ungodly creatures that a lot of people will have you believe. They believed in one God long before the white men came over here to tell them that. They believed in one God without the use of a Bible. They knew the earth was round long before the rest of the world decided that fact. And let me sidetrack for a moment. This is my main reason for not wanting to kill a Sasquatch or for anyone else to kill one. After studying Indian medicine, and medicine to the Indians mean only something that helps you or helps someone else, anything that brings you closer to the Great Spirit, and learning what you are to do in this life this time around. Well, we won't get into reincarnation and past lives right now. But the Indians believed everything in the universe is connected. From you to me, to that rock that's in the driveway out there, to the sun and the moon, every drop of water, all the trees, every blade of grass, everything is connected. We are part of everything, and everything is a part of us. And why is that? It's because we were all created by one Creator, the same Creator. Isn't that a Bible teaching too? But back to Bigfoot. So I didn't mean to get off on Indian beliefs and Indian medicine. Now this disappearing and appearing at will could be because of the camouflage that Bigfoot possesses. They can certainly blend into their surroundings. It's been several years ago now, about 20 years I'd say, that a man told me about a sighting he made. In this sighting, the Sasquatch, which was a young one, camouflaged itself, or tried to camouflage itself, in an open field. Now the man and some other people had been cutting firewood one Saturday morning. They had driven back and forth on a dirt road a few times carrying the wood to his house and to another person's house. It was a distance of about 5 miles. Along the way there was some open pasture land, and as you normally do in the course of driving, you glance to places off the road from time to time. He said he had done this and for some reason always looked into this one particular pasture every time they passed by. It was a normal pasture with a few trees here and there. Tall broom straw or broom sage grass. Most of the grass was the same height. It was in winter and the grass was now brown, dead. There were no leaves on the trees and bushes along the side of the road. So he had a very good unobstructed view of the pasture. In this one trip they were making, when he looked into the field, a fairly long distance into the field, he saw a figure walking across it. When he did, he slowed, and at that instant, whoever or whatever it was immediately squatted down. He said it pulled its legs closely to its body. This made its feet look like the roots on a tree. It then pulled its hands alongside its head, and its arm and elbows tucked tightly to its side. He said in an instant it looked like a tree stump. The ends of the fingers or hand giving the appearance of the tip of the tree when it was cut. Because usually when a tree is cut, there will be a small amount of bark left sticking up on one side. He claimed he stopped and sat there a few minutes looking at the thing. It never moved. It was dark like the other trees in the field. He said if he hadn't seen it take a step or so, then quickly squat down, he'd never known it was anything but a tree stump. Then it crossed his mind. Way out there, it had to be someone up to something. Maybe it was an escaped prisoner, he thought. So when he reached home, he told his wife to be sure to lock all the doors. He told her what he had seen. He got a gun and returned to the place he'd seen the squatting figure about 8 to 10 minutes earlier, but it was gone. In less than 2 seconds, he estimated. If he had not looked into the pasture when he did, he'd never seen the thing squat and would have looked only to see a tree stump sitting in the field. He would have thought nothing else about it and went on his way. So they are very good at, and apparently very learned in, or trained by their parents in hiding from us. Now, my first encounter with Bigfoot came in Wadley, Alabama, which is near Southern Union College of all places, in the early 1970s. At this time, what was called a giant monkey was being seen from time to time in this area. It had also been seen in Daviston, Alabama, a little town just south of Wadley, and was thought to be responsible for several hogs that had been killed there over a period of time. I was about 15 years old then and lived at home with my parents. I need to add here, and you'll see why later, that I had about 20 or so dogs at home then. I was one of those people that was very bad to bring home abandoned, unwanted, or injured, or stray dogs. Sometimes the dogs would begin barking wildly, and it didn't take long to figure out why. They were hearing something in the woods, which was just above my house. Something apparently they didn't know what it was. They would be hearing this creature make a whooping sound that is now associated with Sasquatch, very much like the sounds I have heard on the internet and on TV shows nowadays. Sometimes this thing would make a cooing sound similar to a rain crow, or a hooting sound similar to an owl. But it would always be late at night when it made the cooing sound, and rain crows were not out at night. The dogs would bark and generally just go crazy, I guess you would call it, especially when it cooed. It sounded very close also when it cooed. One night they were worse than normal, the barking, more like screaming. My parents and I had opened the door several times quietening them down. Finally, in the worst they'd been, they began going around the back of the house. They sounded as if they were about to catch something and eat it up. I went to my bedroom and looked out the window, and that's when I saw the thing walk past my window. There was a street light on Highway 77, which was across the backyard, and I could see the thing fairly plainly. It paid little, if any, attention to the dogs. It walked past the side of the house and turned through the next door neighbor's yard and walked out of sight across Highway 77. The dogs followed it a little ways. When it walked past the window, it was about 4 to 5 feet from me. It scared me a little bit, but I, at the time, did not know it was a Bigfoot. I thought only it was a giant monkey, and I knew it was harmless because we had never heard of a Bigfoot in Alabama at that time. Didn't even know what a Bigfoot was. Now, both my grandfathers and my father claimed to have seen these things, but they did not call them Bigfoot in those days. They were called Wampus. One of my grandfathers related the story several times over his lifetime of being in the road in a mule-drawn buggy one day when a Wampus was either about to cross the dirt road or ran down to the edge of the road and screamed. It frightened the mule so bad, he said he could not get the mule under control until they reached the safety of the barn. And he also said it was one long, dangerous, hell of a ride, but the mule never slowed down until they went inside the barn. I remember being a young boy and hunting arrowheads in the large fields at my grandparents' home in Woodland, Alabama. My grandfather would tell me not to get close to the woods and stay where he could watch me from the porch, but usually he walked the fields with me hunting arrowheads. Sometimes he would actually sit on the porch with a rifle watching me hunt arrowheads. He claimed small animals and children were a favorite food of the Wampus. I thought he was joking, but come to find out from other people in the community that was around his age, and now in articles I've read in magazines and on the internet, he was very concerned and very serious about what he was talking about. In a magazine article I completed just this week, they asked me why did I think a hunter had not already shot one to prove they exist. They may very well have. I'm sure they have. I've had people tell me that they have shot at them. In the 1970s, a friend and I hunted this giant monkey that roamed the woods both day and night. If we had came upon it, we'd have shot it in those days. A very good friend told me this account of shooting or attempting to shoot one. It was in the 1970s when this giant monkey was being seen around Wadley, but it wasn't a giant monkey, it was a Bigfoot. This is how I know it was a Bigfoot. According to the witness, he was driving down a dirt road near Wadley when suddenly this giant monkey, or whatever it was, came sliding down a bank. It had its hind feet under it in a squatted position, and the bank being wet from a recent rain made it easy to slide down. When the thing slid into the ditch, it jumped to its 2 feet and ran across the road. It ran on 2 legs like a human. The man, being a big deer hunter, had 5 or 6 deer hounds in a dog box on the back end of the truck. He immediately stopped and turned the dogs on it. He grabbed a 12-gauge shotgun from the gun rack. They all ran into the woods chasing the creature. At some point, about 80 or 100 yards into the woods, the dogs bayed the creature and the hunter ran in the direction of the barking. Now, I passed this place last winter where this happened, because I've been there several times, and the tree I'm about to tell you about was still standing. Most of the wood has been logged out of this area, but you can still see this one tree that they left. They were just cutting pines. And if you're ever up this way and want to go see it, I'll be glad to take you over there. He says when he came into view of the dogs, they had the creature treed. He said he closed in to about 30 feet. The thing sat about 10 feet in the air on the bottom limb of an old oak tree. The dogs were barking and jumping, trying to get hold of one of its legs or feet. It was looking down at the dogs when he first saw it. By the way, now, he had a 12-gauge pump shotgun which held 5 shells. The shells were 3-inch magnums holding double-aught buckshot. Now, buckshot is about a 1/4 inch in diameter and are solid lead, and there's about 18 or so buckshots per shell. A lot of knockdown power in one. He says he jerked the gun to his shoulder, widened his stance, spread his feet, and crouched forward to prepare for the recoil of the shot. He had the stock tight to his shoulder. He clicked off the safety, leveled the weapon, and drew a bead on the creature's ear, or at least what he thought was the ear and where it should be. The area on the head was covered in hair, but he thought he could tell where a clump of hair stuck outward. There should be an ear in there somewhere. He began to squeeze the trigger. Now at 30 feet, with about 20 1/4-inch balls of lead hitting anything in the ear and going into the brain cavity, it would be an instant and painless kill. He said he planned to pump all 5 shells in the creature's head as fast as he could. But then, no matter how good or exciting a story gets, there's always a but then. He says then, as he's squeezing the trigger, this thing looks at him. It turns its face from the dog, turns its head toward him. He says it looked him directly in the eye. When it did, he says he immediately pulled the gun upward, taking his finger off the trigger at the same time. Going up with the gun meant not hitting the creature or hitting a dog should the gun go off. He said the creature looked too human. Its face looked human. He said he could see fear in its face, and was the fear from the dogs, or was it from knowing it was about to die, or possibly both? In a few moments after looking at each other, the Bigfoot jumped from the tree into the middle of the pack of dogs. It swung its arms wildly, hitting the dog, knocking him from some distance, and some dogs even sailing through the air over and over as they sailed. The dogs got scared, he said, and took off running back toward the truck the way they came. He said some dogs actually ran over him getting away. He said he watched the creature a few more moments as it trotted deeper into the woods. Then he too took off running back to the truck, where, he added, the dogs were waiting on him. He said that all but one of that particular pack of dogs would never hunt again. Said no matter what he did or how many other dogs they were with, that this pack of dogs, all except one, never hunted again. Now, Bigfoot do look human, and I believe they are very closely related to humans. Another person told me a few weeks ago of an encounter where a small one tried to climb a tree to escape from him while he was chasing it. The reason I say they are too human to climb trees easily is because of their feet. And if you go on our website, alabamabigfootsociety.com, you'll see I have an article on there comparing gorilla, orangutan, and other primates' feet to humans' feet, and to Bigfoot plaster casts that I have on the site, and you will see that they do not resemble monkey's feet. They're not built like monkey or gorilla feet. They have feet very similar to ours, only larger, and humans are very slow at climbing trees most of the time. Now, everyone would like to take claim to proving that Bigfoot exists. I do not, by the way, because I have seen them and I know they're real. But if you did manage to kill one, where would be a good place to do that? Well, certainly not in Washington State. Do you remember a few years back when Mount St. Helens exploded? I'll get back to that. That was in Washington State, I believe. Washington State already has a few laws that state it is illegal to shoot a Bigfoot. As a matter of fact, I think it's a $10,000 fine or up to 10 years in prison if you're convicted of killing one. But now back to Mount St. Helens. A magazine reporter told me a few days ago when I was talking to him, and we got to talking about when the mountain exploded. He said there was a massive cleanup. Everything for several miles was killed or destroyed. This man was from the Mount St. Helens area, and I was doing a article for him. He says that the government picked up and concealed scores, if not hundreds, of Sasquatch bodies. He also asked me why would the government want to hide the existence of Bigfoot? And that would be hard for me to answer. But what if the government is doing this? What if they're experimenting with these creatures? Could they be microchipping them? Are they cloning these creatures for future use when the New World Order takes over and comes into total effect? A few months ago, a gorilla was spotted in Hale County near Tuscaloosa, Alabama. It had escaped from a government facility that officially doesn't exist. A facility where microchipping is being experimented with on animals. People of the area in Hale County reported special forces, ground troops, and teams, and helicopters searching in this area. Other exotic animals have been seen in the area, and former employees of the facility have said that the animals are being microchipped there. Now, microchipping is used for tracking, we know that, but can it also be used for mind control? Will a race of microchipped Bigfoots be the army of the future? What about law enforcement officers of the future? And if one is killed, who would care? It could be easily replaced. There would be no family to mourn its loss. Sound too far-fetched or too science fiction? Just look at the advances in technology in just the past few years. Just look at what a cell phone can do. Who would have ever dreamed that? But let's get back to Bigfoot. Now, speaking of the government and Bigfoot, the USDOT, which is the United States Department of Transportation, and the U.S. Forest Service both recognize Bigfoot as being real endangered species. In Rohnert Park, California, and I believe I'm pronouncing that right, there's a 100-mile stretch of highway that is named the Bigfoot Scenic Byway. The reason it is named the Bigfoot Scenic Byway is because there have been more reported Bigfoot sightings along this road than any other highway in the United States. And whoever's doing the sighting and the counting, they need to come down here to central Alabama and see how many they see around here. And who's keeping up with this? The government denies they exist, but now who's keeping up with how many's sighted? Who do you call? I certainly don't know. In an article I found concerning this, it stated that The Bigfoot Scenic Byway lies within and goes through government-owned and protected lands where Bigfoot and other endangered species can be seen or observed. The Bigfoot Scenic Byway is recognized by the U.S. Congress and by the Federal Highway Administration, designated 2001. So why are we seeing so many Sasquatch these days? One reason is we are destroying his homes, his hiding places, and his hunting grounds, and I don't like it. We're cutting forests that need to be left alone, and I don't like cutting forests that need to be left alone. We're building shopping centers, subdivisions, and so forth where Bigfoot once hunted and once lived. Not only are the ancient forests used for homes for Bigfoot and all other wildlife, but the plants, the trees, take in the air that we breathe and produce what we need to survive, oxygen. Without plant life, we humans will not survive long either. Another reason Bigfoot is being seen so much lately is because there are more people on Earth nowadays than ever before. More people traveling. We have a high population. Earth is actually overpopulated. On October 20th, 1967, Roger Patterson captured the first Bigfoot on film. It's become a very famous piece of evidence. The film has been called evidence, proof they do exist, and I believe the film is real. It has also been called a hoax, but take this into account. The creature on the film is a female. It took several years after the film had been made public and put into public's eye that someone finally noticed this. Someone finally saw she had breasts. Personally, I never noticed it until it was pointed out. Then it was very plain to see. If Patterson had had the suit made, or made it himself, as some claim, with a human inside, would he have taken the time to make it a female creature? Probably not. And if he did have a costume made female, don't you think he'd been the first to point out that this creature was a female? I believe he would have. I don't think a homemade suit would have been equipped that way in those days, and probably not today. If you want to see a very good analysis of this film, go to YouTube and search Patterson Gimlin Bigfoot film - Bill Munn's Analyst. Bill Munns is spelled M-U-N-N-S. Bill Munn's Analysis. Patterson died of cancer a short time after the filming in 1972. Many years ago, it's been a long time now, I watched a documentary that had an interview with a man that was with Patterson when he died. This man says he asked Patterson on his deathbed just a few hours before he died if the film was real. Was the creature real, or did they fake it? Did they have someone in a bodysuit? In the show I watched, the man said Patterson's last words to him, the creature was real. According to the documentary, he then soon went into a coma and died. So I believe it. A deathbed confession is very admissible in court. And if I was about to meet my maker, and which I will be someday, I sure would want to meet him with a lie on my lips. New animal species are discovered from time to time. That's how it'll be with Bigfoot. And I believe it will soon be proven that he does exist. There are too many sightings report and too little land left for them to hide in. The gorilla was only discovered in 1902. Until then, it was also a mythological creature just like Sasquatch. There were said to be about 100,000 of them living in Africa. Gorillas, that is now. Then in 2008, only about 6 years ago, 125,000 more of them were discovered in the Congo. In modern 21st century, when everything is supposed to be known to mankind, more were discovered. But right now, what Bigfoot is still a mystery. Personally, I believe it will turn out to be an early evolutionary humanoid. From my research and my encounters and the work I've done since I was about 15, and that's going to be over 45 years now, I feel it is very close to humans. In some ways, it seems smarter to me than humans are. After all, it has avoided contact with humans for a long time. It has contacted some humans, I guess, a select few, like Indians and the such. The woods are not overrun with them, so I wonder, do they practice birth control? It's very possible. That would make them a lot smarter than humans, because we certainly don't. And I also wonder sometimes, before they are proven to exist, because of all our greed, I want to cut the forest and clear the land to replace soil, grass, and trees, nature as it is intended, with concrete, asphalt, and sky-high office buildings filled with the lowest form of humanity, a telemarketer. Will they die out, or will they just go extinct? Now that was the little talk that I made over there. It might have gotten a little bit long, but I had a lot I wanted to say that night. But since then, there's a few things that I have changed my mind on. I don't believe that Bigfoot will ever be acknowledged by science or by the government that it actually exists. And the reason being, here in Alabama, the timber and the logging industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. I have actually contacted some elected officials and said, how do we go about getting a law on the book to make it illegal to kill a Sasquatch? And I pretty much get laughed at, and I get tired of it. If I take the time to vote for you, you can at least answer my question with a little respect. Let me also add, if you had all the evidence on someone, like all the evidence you have on Bigfoot, like videos, still pictures, eyewitness account is very important. Footprints, hair samples, all the evidence that you have on Bigfoot, if you had on somebody who was in court about to be convicted of capital murder, there wouldn't be any question. They would be given the death penalty immediately. I doubt the jury would be out over 15 minutes with all the evidence that's on Bigfoot to prove that he exists. If that same evidence was on a human being for murder, he'd be guilty. And you know that as well as I do. But the reason being, it's just too much money, the logging and the timber industry, and too many people control politicians these days. Anyway, that was the little talk that I gave over there that day, and I hope you enjoyed it tonight, and I hope it didn't get too long for you. So the next time you're riding down the road, keep an eye out in the woods. You just might see a Bigfoot out there. That's the easiest way to catch them. That's the easiest way to see them. A lot of times they like to sit on the road and watch you pass by. And I would like to say, would like you to subscribe to our channel if you like paranormal, or if you like the Alabama adventures that we're doing. Bigfoot's also in our Alabama adventure. We have had some more adventures chasing Bigfoot and searching for him ourselves. And like I said, I hope you will subscribe to the channel. And as you can tell, I enjoy wearing cowboy hats, and I like to wear them doing the videos. If you have a cowboy hat you would like to send to me, I would appreciate getting it. We'll use it in one of the videos. If you send me a hat, then I'll send you a free complimentary 1-year membership to the Alabama Bigfoot Society. And a couple of other things I'd like to add before we go tonight is about a couple of things here that's on our set tonight. This is a mandala of my granddaughter Madison's hand that she and I made one Saturday afternoon several years ago. And I want Madison to know that I and her family love her very much, and we're hoping to see her someday real soon. And this is a concrete yard ornament that came from Concreatures. Rita Newton owned Concreatures in Wetumpka, Alabama. She was a member of Alabama Bigfoot Society, and she was nice enough to give me this statue shortly before her death about a year ago. And Rita is greatly missed because she did a lot of work for Alabama Bigfoot Society in Montgomery, Wetumpka area. And of course, this is Chico, who is Madison's dog. And I just want Madison to know that me, her family, and Chico are looking forward to seeing her again real soon. We all love her very much. And I'll be looking for you next time on the next Alabama adventure.